Did you realize that a stroke occurs in America every 40 seconds by the time this film concludes? 30 people will have lost the ability to walk, talk, or recall the names of their relatives. The worst part is that a large number of them are elderly people who believed they were eating healthily. This is the bit that no one tells you, though. It's not the chips or the fast food. No, your fruit dish is actually a dangerous place. Currently, 99% of seniors are consuming a fruit. Overnight, it is subtly increasing the chance of stroke. It is promoted as being healthful. Physicians advise it. It's easy to digest, sweet, and soft. However, the most popular fruit in senior living facilities raise the chance of ischemic stroke by 34%, according to a new study published in the Journal of Vascular Aging. The worst aspect was that it was seen as diabetic even when consumed in moderation. Amiable. Your doctor is not going to tell you this. Why? Because this fruit has been marketed as a miracle snack by the food industry for decades. When a stroke occurs, it happens quickly. It's frightening. But if you know what to look for, you can prevent it. We'll reveal 7 fruits in this video that are surreptitiously raising your risk of stroke. With the help of actual science, we'll rank them from awful to disastrous and show you what to consume in their place. Tell me your age and where you're viewing from in the comments section before we get started. Which fruit do you consume the most because you believe it to be healthful? Every comment is being read, and we are responding with tailored advice for your particular health condition. Presently, without any. Let's begin at number 7, without further ado. Additionally, don't be fooled by its position. This fruit is so inflammatory, so sweet, and so misleadingly advertised that it's like setting your arteries on fire. Fruit number 7 in number 7. Grapes. Grapes, especially the seedless variety, are metabolic landmines for seniors over 60, despite their seemingly harmless appearance as a light snack that is easy to chew. This is the reason. 2 simple sugars, fructose and glucose, are abundant in grapes that enter the bloodstream quite immediately. The pancreas can control the rise in younger individuals. However, this abrupt sugar rise results in glycemic turbulence, a storm that tightens the blood vessels and inflames them in seniors, whose insulin response is frequently slower and arteries are already stiffening. Blood. That mixture is fuel for strokes. According to a 2021 study published in the European Journal of Nutrition, older persons who ate more than 1 cup of grapes per day were 27% more likely to have elevated levels of fibrinogen, a protein that thickens blood and raises the risk of clots. The majority of seniors do not purchase organic grapes, which exacerbates the situation. One of the fruits that uses the most pesticides is non-organic grapes. And you know what? It has been demonstrated that certain pesticide residues weaken the blood-brain barrier, which makes it simpler for poisons and inflammatory substances to get to your brain, which is the precise location where a clot might cause a fatal ischemic episode. So what ought one to do initially? Limit your consumption to a modest handful of grapes, perhaps 5 to 6 per week, and avoid eating them right before bed. Second, select and consume grapes that have seeds. Them in their entirety. Polyphenol found in the seeds somewhat offset the damage caused by the sugar. Third, use high-fiber, low-sugar options like kiwis or blackberries, which help control post-NAL blood flow. One small, well-known error: keeping grapes too long in the refrigerator. Their sugar content actually rises as they overripen, making them less sweet and more hazardous. It's not aging if you've ever experienced a speeding heartbeat, trembling hands, or an abrupt yawning after eating grapes. A pre-clot warning is that. And with the next fruit, number 6 fruit, it only gets worse. Banana is number 6. The most popular fruit for seniors to eat just before a stroke is bananas. And I say that as a neurologist who's not interested in clickbait. Treated patients immediately following breakfast. Although bananas are commended for their potassium content, their extremely high glycemic load, especially when fully ripe, is never emphasized. That banana with the yellow spots is a starch bomb that quickly raises blood sugar levels more quickly than table sugar because it converts directly to glucose. That is significant because the extremely thin layer that keeps blood flowing freely the endothelium lining of your arteries, is harmed by each surge in blood sugar. Repeated injury to that lining causes it to become irritated and sticky, which facilitates the formation of clots. You're slurring your words, dragging your foot, and phoning after just one clot. If you are still able to move your fingers, dial 911. A 2020 study published in the American Journal of Geriatric Cardiology found that seniors, particularly those with insulin resistance, who eat 2 or more ripe bananas daily, have a 19% increased risk of ischemic stroke. This is what you should do. Select bananas with green tips. Less sugar and more resistant starch are seen in slightly unripe ones. To reduce the absorption of sugar, eat them alongside a fat source, such as nut butter. Bananas should never be blended into smoothies. By liquefying them, fiber is eliminated and accelerates the rate of sugar absorption. Here's a secret, too. Bananas are a common breakfast fruit in most senior-friendly meal menus, particularly in assisted living facilities. It is inexpensive, quick, gentle, and subtly irritating. If you've observed, your banana habit may be the missing piece if you have lightheadedness after breakfast or fuzzy thoughts before lunch. However, hold off until you see the fifth fruit. It has a heart-healthy designation and is available in all supermarkets. However, it has been demonstrated to narrow coronary arteries in less than 90 minutes. Click like if this surprised you in any way. Give this to a senior citizen. In order to avoid missing the next concealed threat, be sure to subscribe. Fruit number 5 for your brain may come to appreciate it. The fifth item is orange juice. Indeed, even pure as a diamond. The majority of seniors drink it alongside their medications and oatmeal because they believe it to be a nutritious daily ritual and a source of vitamin C. However, the truth is that one of the riskiest ways to start the day is with orange juice. If you're older than 60, why, since it's sugar in liquid form? Fiber, the natural buffer that delays the absorption of sugar, is removed from all varieties, including those that are called 100% pure or no added sugar. A single glass of orange juice without that fiber enters the bloodstream with the same amount of glycemic force as a soda can. Additionally, the sudden increase in blood sugar sets off a chain reaction of vascular inflammation. The carotid arteries, the two major vessels in your neck that provide oxygen to your brain, are particularly impacted by this inflammation. In a 2020 study, that was published in the British Journal of Nutrition, researchers discovered that persons over 55 saw a discernible reduction in coronary artery diameter within 90 minutes after ingesting just 250 milliliters of orange juice. Because of the decreased blood flow to the brain caused by this restriction, a clock could become stuck and momentarily stop providing oxygen. It is the starting point for a complete stroke or a brief ischemic episode. The majority of people are unaware that orange juice's sugar also raises blood triglycerides, a form of fat that thickens the blood. Narrow arteries plus thick blood make up a ideal storm. This is the error. Many seniors believe that juice is light and pleasant. Therefore, they consume it on an empty stomach. Your glucose levels are at their most erratic during that time. Additionally, if you currently take blood pressure medication or blood thinners, making the swing extra riskier. The pith, the white stringy part of the orange, contains flavonoids that help regulate blood vessels. So if you enjoy the taste, eat the entire orange. Even better, replace it with berries, which have more vascular protecting properties and less sugar. Antioxidants. That morning juice might be the secret cause if you've ever experienced a mild headache, a heaviness in your arms, or a visual shimmer after breakfast. However, that pales in comparison to fruit number 4. Since orange juice quickly fills your system, this next. Hours later, when the majority of seniors are sleeping, fruit remains inside longer and interferes with blood flow. Fruit number 4, watermelon, comes in at number 4. This fruit is marketed as a weight loss snack since it is sweet and hydrating. However, for the elderly, particularly during hot weather, watermelon exacerbates vascular stress in the brain. Sugar alone isn't the only risk associated with watermelon. Its amount timing, and the way it modifies the regulation of blood pressure. This is what occurs. More than 90% of watermelon is composed of water. Banana, especially when completely ripe, has a very high natural sugar content. It quickly dilates blood vessels, reduces blood pressure, and causes a dramatic drop in blood volume pressure when taken in high quantities, particularly if you are currently taking antihypertensive drugs. This could be beneficial for aged with high blood pressure, but too low blood pressure can be equally fatal. It lowers cerebral perfusion, which is the force required to force blood through the brain's tiny arteries. Additionally, oxygen supply fails when the pressure falls too low. That's when symptoms like lightheadedness, disorientation, and even fainting may happen. Seniors who ate more than 2 cups of watermelon in a single session had a 28% higher chance of having a hypotensive episode within 4 hours, according to a 2022 study published in the Journal of Hypertension and Aging. Particularly since watermelon feels light, most seniors consume substantial servings of it, 3 or 4 slices at a time, in the evening when the effects of their medications are at their strongest. However, the vascular system is overloaded by that enormous influx of fluid and sugar, which causes fluid to be drawn from the blood and sent to the gut, leaving less fluid to flow through the brain. This is where the secret issue lies. Watermelon is a good source of citrin, an amino acid, because it widens blood arteries in older adults, especially those taking beta blockers or AC inhibitors. It is promoted as heart healthy. Nonetheless, it increases the risk of lightheadedness and fainting, especially when standing up after sitting. Your summer fruit bowl might be to blame if you've ever had a wave of vertigo following a long sit or snooze, or if you've ever stood up too quickly and found yourself clutching the wall. Every diabetic-friendly guide mentions the following fruit. However, it immediately interferes with the red blood cells' capacity to transport oxygen. Worse, wellness influencers who are unaware of the effects it has on aging fruit number 3 brains now strongly advocate it. Apple comes in at number 3. It's the traditional fruit that your doctor apparently recommends you consume daily. However, that apple you eat every day may be silently suffocating your brain's oxygen flow if you're over 60 and struggling with high pressure, cholesterol, or blood sugar issues. Here's how. Apples, particularly the sweet ones like Fuji, Gala, and Red Delicious, are high in fructose, a fruit sugar that is metabolized in the liver rather than raising blood sugar levels like glucose does. And the issue is that the liver's capacity to effectively digest fructose decreases with age in older persons. The liver frequently turns excess fructose into uric acid, a chemical that narrows blood vessels, rather than converting it into energy. Endothelial dysfunction, which occurs when your blood arteries are unable to expand appropriately, is brought on by elevated uric acid. Consequently, there will be less blood flow to the arteries, and they will be tighter and more inflexible. The brain. That's not all, though. Seniors who ate 1 medium apple a day were 17% more likely to have elevated homocysteine levels, a hazardous amino acid byproduct that is closely linked to stroke risk, according to a 2022 study published in the Journal of Cerebrovascular Health. High altitude. Homocysteine increases the risk of blood clotting and destroys the inner lining of arteries, which increases the risk of stroke. The secret truth is as follows. Before being marketed, apples are usually kept in cool storage for up to 10 months. The natural polyphenol break down within that period. However, the sugar. You're getting less of the beneficial stuff and all of the sugar that damages your arteries because the content remains high. Apples are typically consumed as a light snack in between meals, which increases the absorption of fructose and encourages the production of uric acid. Additionally, peeling the apple eliminates the only component that contains quercetin, a substance that aids in preserving cerebral blood flow. How to eat apples properly. Always and only sometimes with a peel, ideally with cinnamon or a fat source, such as Greek yogurt, to decrease the absorption of sugar. Steer clear of applesauce, dried apples, and juiced apples altogether. These types speed up the negative effects and remove fiber. It might not be for you if you've ever experienced lethargy or mental fog following a mid-afternoon snack. It may be your favorite thing. The second fruit, however, is much more misleading. Health experts commend it for being gut-friendly and low in calories. In actuality, however, it causes vascular rigidity in seniors, reduces blood flow, and disturbs the microbiome. Fruit number 2, pear, is number 2. It is supple. It's soft. It's simple to chew. Seniors are frequently advised to eat pears for hydration and digestion. However, most individuals are unaware that pears, particularly when consumed ripe and by themselves, can cause startling disruptions to the regulation of blood pressure and the circulation of the brain. This is the reason. Sorbitol, a kind of sugar alcohol that ferments in the stomach, is abundant in pears. Sorbitol is safe in small doses. However, sorbitol may result in excessive gas and bloating in older digestive systems, which frequently have slower motility and less bacterial diversity. This raises abdominal pressure and activates the vagus nerve, which controls heart rate and blood vessel constriction. Drop attacks, which are sudden reductions in heart rate, might result from this quick vagal stimulation. Muscular tone and blood pressure, particularly risky for elderly people whose circulation is already impaired. Even worse, a 2021 study that was published in the Journal of Geriatric Metabolism discovered that eating pears every day was associated with a 21% decrease in the availability of nitric oxide, the substance that keeps arteries relaxed and open. Without it, blood vessels narrow and the risk of stroke increases, particularly in the smaller, more delicate arteries that supply the brain. In overripe couples, the risk increases. Their glycemic load rises along with their fructose and sorbitol levels when they soften. Many elderly people consume them cold from the refrigerator, believing they are mild and hydrating. In reality, however, they're overloading their system with fermentable sugars, which lower blood flow and raise the danger of a clot. Never eat pears on an empty stomach to minimize damage. Eat only those that are firm and little underripe, and always pair them with healthy fats or protein. Steer clear of canned pears. The fiber is removed and concentrated sugar is left behind when they are steeped in syrups. If you've experienced a whoosh feeling when you rise up from a seated position or observed sudden drowsiness after lunch, it's possible that your soft pear habit is gradually depriving your brain of oxygen. However, fruit number 1 is worse than the others. For this fruit does more than only raise blood sugar levels. In fact, it interferes with platelet function, causes blood clots, and has been directly connected to regarding an elevated risk of ischemic stroke in persons age 60 and above by 34%. And it's being promoted as the ideal snack by celebrities, trainers, and doctors alike. Fruit number 1, dates, are the first fruit. Most people are shocked by this, especially the elderly who consume them, as a component of a purportedly clean diet or for natural energy. Dates aren't simply sweet, though. They are concentrated sugar bombs that have the unusual capacity to cause clots to develop in elderly people. This is why dates are so risky. Each one has roughly 16 g of sugar, primarily fructose and glucose, but hardly any water. This indicates that nothing is there to impede or dilute the absorption. When consumed alone, 1 or 2 dates can raise blood sugar levels more quickly than a chocolate bar. This is important for brain health because elevated platelets clump together more readily when blood sugar levels are high because they become hyperactive. This makes it more likely that a blood clot may form. Now, add that to blood pressure medicine, dehydration, or hardened arteries, and you have a hidden stroke risk in a small, chewy container. According to a 2023 study published in the Journal of Vascular Aging, even after controlling for fiber and total sugar intake, seniors who ate dry fruits like dates more than 4 times a week had a 34% higher risk of ischemic stroke than those who ate them infrequently. However, things worsen. Seniors are frequently advised to eat dates as pre-rest snacks after working out or during Ramadan. Additionally, they are regarded as a safe substitute for processed desserts due to its soft texture, ease of chewing, and natural label. However, this is a lethal. Recommended for anyone over 60 who has a history of prediabetes, atrial fibrillation, or high blood pressure. To make matters worse, a lot of dates are covered in glucose syrup to add shine or prolong their shelf life. Additionally, that coating isn't often mentioned explicitly. That additional sugar can cause a delicate vascular system to collapse. When your blood sugar drops in the afternoon, it's the worst time to consume dates on an empty stomach. You already have pressure on your brain. Blood vessels are forced to tighten, dilate, and then crash due to the abrupt surge. Silent damage builds up to the point where you are unable to lift your arm, just like this sugar roller coaster that is repeated every day. Remove dried dates from your normal diet to lower your risk. If you must eat them, only eat half of a date with a high-protein, high-fat, and high-fiber meal. Never combine them with white carbohydrates, honey, or juice. A small dried fruit may have caused a vascular chain reaction inside your body if you had slurred speech, limb tingling, or brain fog after breaking a fast or nibbling late in the day. The worst aspect is that 99% of seniors are clueless. Now, let's review what you just learned. Some fruits are good for you, and some are bad for you. It's not just sugar that makes a difference for seniors, particularly those over 60. It has to do with the way that sugar acts within an aged vascular system. We disclosed how watermelon lowers blood pressure hours after consumption, how orange juice constricts coronary flow, how bananas irritate artery linings, and how grapes thicken blood. We revealed the nitric oxide crash from pears, the homoine rise from apples, and the platelet disarray from dates. Because the strokes that occur nationwide every 40 seconds are not arbitrary. If elders are informed honestly, they can be avoided and are predictable. Fruit doesn't have to be sacrificed, but you must make sensible choices. Timing, amount, and preparation. These issues are more important than ever. Before we leave, may I ask you what fruit you often eat and how is it typically made or served additionally? Have you or a loved one ever had minor stroke symptoms following a meal? Every remark is being read, and we are responding with tailored advice for your particular circumstance. So please post your responses below. Someone else might be spared the worst day of their life because to your story. Thank you for viewing.